The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Wednesday, hump day in the rib.
June 3rd. And it's going to be interesting for sure. So let's kick off the report of the COVID viruses. There were 3 new cases in Fall River yesterday with 15. Oh, actually, it's more than that. The city has now been notified of its 55th fatality due to COVID-19. Remember, as of yesterday, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health has started reporting both confirmed and probable cases. So there you go. Bristol County has 7,380. Massachusetts has 101,163 cases. So 55 are now dead. It's getting up there.
That's a big jump. That's a big jump. That's bad news. But obviously, because you're the tracker, the official tracker. But this probably goes back to, I guess, periods where they were having a lot of gatherings. Remember, people were reporting certain people were having gatherings, maybe
Right.
it was for Mother's Day or whatever.
Right.
And I don't know. It gets passed around and see what gets me, CJ, about this. It bothers me because I guess because of obviously most people know that I love numbers and statistics and stuff like that, especially when I'm writing them to the city council, which, by the way, only one councilor has gotten back to me on all that material and all the money that I've exposed that was saved by this city and then misdirected somewhere because we continue to get our increases. But what disturbs me about these statistics are we're not getting the information about ages, age groups, maybe if they were classified, if they were nursing home deaths. And I think that's important. Those are important facts to know so you can really evaluate the situation, because if we find that most of these are very elderly people in certain areas, obviously it's problematic, and we have to look at it. It's like Cuomo. I think Cuomo in New York has stopped putting COVID virus positive people into nursing homes since he was probably responsible for the death of about 50% of those people in the or more in the nursing homes. But I think those things are important. Numbers are just numbers. You've really got to have subgroups in order to truly evaluate something like this, at least in my opinion.
Well, all of those subgroups you're talking about are in the state's daily report. It's on its dashboard, and you're asking about long-term care facilities. That's currently on page 20. That's how big the report is. I should really download this report and send it to you, so that you'd get an idea of what they're talking about. Because you would love this. This is something you would definitely love. But for instance, deaths in long-term care facilities. Residents, healthcare workers of long-term care facilities with probable or confirmed COVID, 21,608. Long-term care facilities reporting at least one probable or confirmed case of COVID, 350. Probable or confirmed COVID-19 deaths reported in a long-term care facility, 4,382. So, I mean, they've got the numbers broken down. It's just a matter of, how much information do you, I can report all kinds of stuff. I can give you reports on hospitalizations by age group, case and case rate by age group, daily and cumulative deaths, daily and cumulative ICU and intubations. They've got everything broken down the way it should be for public health. But again, for the majority of people, all of this information is too much information.
Well, it's too much in one way, but I don't know if it's too much for them to totally grasp it. Maybe people can, if because there's been so much information and misinformation and changes in information. Like, it spreads in surfaces, it doesn't spread at surfaces. Now it does spread on surfaces, but not to the degree, blah, 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 blah. And that's the problem. The problem is, I think a lot of these statistics have really been, they can either confirm or refute some of these things if you look at them closely, because I think with people have been told that, oh, this only attacks a very small group for the normal. If you're normal and you're fairly healthy, you've got very little chance. And that would encourage people to take that information without following up on it and say, okay, to hell with it. I'm just going to go out and ignore everything because it does. I'm not going to die from this. And they could theoretically have it and spread it. And I think, the focus, it's all on politics now. We have these press conferences, and as far as I'm concerned, they've done a terrible job because they're not looking at the thing. Maybe because I overanalyze things, and I've always been analytical. And to me, that's necessary information because they're not looking at what happens, what the long range effects of giving out this information are. The fact is that there are consequences. When you tell people that they're probably not going to die from this, especially millennials, they're going to run around and do what they do, run around on a beach. But you don't know how many people they're going to infect. And I think that has to be emphasized. I think the emphasis is on get in front of a camera and ordering people to do what you think is right without the full information. And I don't like to be told to do something. Being a taxpayer and somebody who believes we do have freedom in this country, I don't like my freedoms repressed without a reasonable reason. And all I see is political garbage being spewed. Everybody's on, they're on TV every day, getting the camera time. It's kind of like the council talking about things for 5 hours and then voting for it after they condemned it for 4.5 hours. So, this stuff irritates me. I'm sorry. And maybe some people it doesn't bother, they're oblivious, but I'm one of those people who, the more information I can get, the better I like it. And I think that they're given too much information in the wrong areas. Like I said, they keep changing. Instead of explaining it, tell them the story. Don't listen. You may be a millennial. You may not die. But if you're wandering around, you can infect a whole bunch of people, and it's not fair. And this is the reason that we have these laws, and they also have to enforce them. The irony of this is they're allowing people to destroy the United States, burn and loot and steal, and the mainstream media, for the most part, is not even, they're condoning it. They're actually not even covering it. They're intentionally not talking about this. Yet the same liberals who are ignoring, the dismantling of the United States, and basically mob rule, giving up parts of cities, are the same people that ordered law-abiding, tax-paying Americans, non-looting, non-stealing Americans, to stay in their house. They had no problem being dictators when they were taking the general public and setting all these rules. They arrested somebody for what the hell did they arrested some woman for, I don't know, walking into a store without a mask or something. They've done all these ridiculous things. Yet we've got people burning down stores, murdering people, and okay, now so that's all right. That's okay. We're gonna find a reason for that, and there's no reason for that. That is criminal activity, and it's bullshit. So, I got off on a segue, but that pisses me off because they're telling us all about this stuff, and yet when they're gonna make me a prisoner in my own home, but they let these fools run amok.
Well, speaking about running amok, as you remember, on Sunday there was a George Floyd protest here in Fall River,
Yep.
which was downtown by Government Center. The mayor and the police chief met with some organizers of another protest, which is going to take place in your neighborhood.
Mm.
A group of young local protest organizers met with Mayor Paul Coogan and Police Chief Jeffrey Cardoza to talk strategy regarding Saturday's planned rally at Lafayette Park in the wake of the death of George Floyd, who died last week at the hands of Minneapolis police. All agreed the goal is for a peaceful assembly to follow up last Saturday is at Government Center. So again, now it's something that a lot of people didn't realize, and pictures were taken during that last protest. The mayor was seen on his knee in front of Government Center with the rest of the protesters. Some people said, "Thank you, Mr. Mayor." Other people said, "Why are you doing that?" You know, I understand it's a peaceful protest. I understand that people want to make their voice heard. But when you look at what happened in Providence, and you look at what happened in Boston, and you look at what happened in Washington, D.C., and you look at happened elsewhere in the country, the mayor and the police chief, even though they're meeting with these organizers for a peaceful protest, need to put themselves on alert for potential breakdown because it happens. And what are we going to do? I mean, if we put a couple of police officers there for a peaceful protest, and all of a sudden all hell breaks loose, what are we going to do?
No, you're right, CJ. And look, we have to. There's an old adage. Always prepare for the worst. And if it doesn't get that bad, well, there's no problem. You can just all those resources are still available. But it's just like when you fight a fire, you always take the line more than you need because you can always use less water. But if you get into an area and you need more, you need a bigger line. You have to back out, then you screw because you lose the building. So it's the same thing with this. We have to prepare. We have a lot of bad actors. We have a lot of people who are using this as a vehicle to rob things. You tell me what walking out of Target with a television set and a cart full of everything you need, or breaking into the Apple store and cleaning it out has to do with George Floyd. Now, anybody who isn't disturbed by what happened to him, and it's okay, but deal with the system. This is being used as a political vehicle because it's an election year. They want to show control, lack of control. It's become a political football, and the liberal states that locked everybody in the most are the states that are letting these criminals loose, allowing them to do damage, taking businesses. People work their entire lives to create these businesses, and now they've been burnt out. They're gone. They've lost. Not only were they hurting from the pandemic, they might have been able to come back, maybe. Now they're done. They're toast because of these animals. They're not socialized. This is not the behavior. This is third world country stuff. And to allow this to happen, these governors should all be thrown right into the middle of it. Let them hang them, not in effigy either. Because the reality is, in the old days when you had a hurricane, the first thing that was announced was that the police and the National Guard have been told to shoot looters on sight. Well, that's terrible. No, it's not terrible. These people are knowingly destroying people's lives and killing people. There were civilians killed, civilians hospitalized, police officers killed, good police officers. Are all police officers good? No. Are all people good? No. But you don't attack the good. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And the fact is that this is just totally, it's just mind-boggling to see this happen in the United States. If you see this in Hong Kong, well, they're fighting an authoritarian regime, a communist a communist regime that doesn't allow freedom of speech. That you have freedom of speech, you have freedom of expression in this country. Demonstrate all you want. Demonstrate all you want. We're having another one Saturday. Frankly, my position is I don't see the point. We had one. Most people, I don't think I've found anybody that disagrees that these police officers, deserve to be charged, did not act properly. Okay, we all know that. These demonstrations are more for the camera and more to promote looting and rioting than if they are to make the point. The point's been made. Now, now that the point's been made, why don't we all get together and work on making sure we undo the systemic problems within police departments? Walking around throwing bottles at people, water bottles or bricks, does not cure the problem. We've identified the problem. How long are we going to protest? For the next 6 months, for the next year? To me, that's pointless. You identify a problem and you resolve it. We've identified the problem. So let's knock this crap off. And you're right, CJ. If something happens in Fall River and we're not prepared, shame on us, because we've seen it happen everywhere, even in the Capitol, in Washington D.C. And if you can't figure out, there might be a problem. You got your head so far in the sand that you might be related to some ostriches.
How true. Well, the interesting thing is, last night Brockton had a protest, and Boston still had a protest right out at Franklin Park. But 25 miles south of Boston, which is Brockton, they had a fraction of the protesters clash with the state and local police in a scene reminiscent of how too many protests around the country have ended. And what happened was, a Dunkin' Donut shop had their windows broken and was burnt down. And while the mayor of Brockton, Mayor Sullivan, Robert Sullivan, said, "We need systemic changes in our country, but change cannot happen through violence." Sullivan said the people causing mayhem Tuesday night do not represent the city of champions. The people across the street cleaning graffiti, that's what Brockton is, he said. The National Guard was called into the city, Sullivan said. A state trooper and local police officers suffered minor injuries. There were several arrests. See, and this is what happens because they weren't totally prepared for something like this happening. And, here are some quotes from one of the group, Black Lives Matter Boston and Violence in Boston, which continue to organize the rally, said it must remain peaceful. But one of the protesters turned around and said, quote, expletive, the police. I don't care about them, but I do care about you. Monica Cannon Grant, founder of Violence in Boston, told protesters, act like you have common sense. So, they say one thing and then they turn around and say another. I really don't know what to think. But I do know that Brockton at least took out the forethought to say, okay, we're going to have the state police here, we're going to have our local police here, and we're going to have the National Guard here. So,
well, look, this is all rhetoric, CJ, and rhetoric doesn't work. This is horse shit, okay? I'm sorry. This is absolute manure. Because these politicians all say the same thing. This isn't representative of the city of champions. This isn't representative of the Spindle City. This isn't representative of the capital of the United States of America. What does that mean? Nothing. That's a political statement and excuse. It is representative because that's what made the news. People are killed. People's businesses are destroyed. People's property is destroyed against the guarantee in the Constitution to domestic tranquility, to provide us with domestic tranquility and provide for our common defense. Anybody, look, you got these libtards and these politically correct idiots running these shows. That's why they're circuses. It's the same monkeys with different names. You had de Blasio, that moron, saying, well, we're not going to have our guys go out in riot gear because it might antagonize the crowd. Well, tough crap. You're supposed to be out there in riot gear. Roll the tanks out. Once you allow a mob and mob psychology to take over, you've lost control of the incident. You got to do something quick, and you got to do something assertive. And anybody that knows anything about it, like the guy that Mongino, that was in the Secret Service and was a former police officer, what did he say? First thing you got to do with a crowd, bang, get the first one, lock them up, second one, lock them up, third one, lock them up, and then a crowd will disperse. You allow the crowd to feed off itself, and you lose control of the situation. It escalates. Anybody with a half a damn brain can figure that out.
Right.
You know, anybody with a half a brain can figure this out. They're contributing to these riots with their velvet glove approach to criminals who are murdering people and destroying property and attacking police officers who are trying to do their job. You know, the problem is Genghis Khan knew how to figure it out. When he rolled into a place and anybody disobeyed them, they chopped off their heads. And after a couple of towns, nobody disobeyed him. The fact is, well, people go, oh, that's horrifying. Well, guess what? It works. Because we saw what mob psychology does. We saw what Adolf Hitler did to Germany when he had everybody marching with goose step and yelling Heil Hitler. He psyched them all up. He convinced an entire nation to take on the world. That's mob psychology. Look at the old videos of Hitler making speeches, like in Munich, with millions of Germans and chanting, and that's what they do. They feed off each other. Mob psychology. People without the coyones, with coyones the size of babies, all of a sudden become Arnold Schwarzenegger when they're in a crowd of 1,000 people yelling and chanting, and some of them just go along. But the problem is you lose control. We're not controlling this thing. They're afraid to put the National Guard out because, oh, they're going to upset the protesters. It's not about upsetting them. It's about controlling them. And only assertive action controls a mob. Just like when what's the old adage? If you got three or four guys that want to attack you, you knock the first one out quick, at least two will run away. You may only have one to deal with for a while. That committee had one meeting and it was on tips and tips. That's it. They had no meetings on finance. I sent that letter, and by all means, everybody, Mr. Mollicone said he wants transparency. We can't get it. That's the point. That's the reason I released those documents before the budget, so the city council can understand how many millions and millions of dollars that we saved in the health care. Yet they're still looking at health care to try to siphon money from the employees under the pretense that it's going to help. No, all it does is give them more money to blow. Nobody's ever determined how we got into these. When we had an $8 million deficit, nobody found out how we got that $8 million. The city council, now they're looking at a 4.7 before the COVID. And nobody's ever researched, and that's fundamentally what I said in the letter that you posted, that you got some flack about posting. I know. But the reality is, I think the letter is self-explanatory. There's no theory in that letter. I released the letter that I sent to the chairman of the finance committee on the transition team. And that letter is pretty clear. I think you've read it, CJ. And then I read the documentation to prove everything I said. I showed the $27 million that we've saved by using Canadian drugs. I showed how much money the city is making by the cost shift for plan modeling. And where has all that money been spent? Where has it gone? How did we evolve a deficit when this city's budget was reduced because of just the healthcare by $50 to $70 million over the past 5 to 10 years? So where did all that money go? Maybe it's the magic money that Lou Pacheco talked about when Sutter was the mayor. This is their magic money, but they blow it. And Mary Sahadi, all she knows how to do is tax and spend. You ask her for where the money went, you never get an answer. I have a letter, and that will be posted at some point in time. But the mayor has seen it. I showed it to him at a meeting in 2016, asking where money, improperly employee money that was put into a city account. I asked for the documentation of where that money was collected, what accounts it migrated through before somebody finally figured out it wasn't their money. Just like the millions in 90 and the millions in 08 and the 5 accounts that were dormant for 25 years. Nobody, Mr. Mollicone, ever gets an answer on how we got here or where the money goes, because they just don't care where the money goes. All they think about is how they can get more of our money.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And you know what? Mr. Mollicone's letter was right on the money, as we said. And you know what? He really should make a point of letting other people know this. And because not everybody reads the Herald. If you have a Facebook account, Mr. Mollicone, I would highly suggest you post it on Facebook. Don't give the link to the Herald, because they're getting really tight on how many views they can have, because they're really hard up for money. So please be sure that you get that message out to people, because it was right on the money. It's my understanding that you told the mayor that he needs to get an audit done.
Yeah, I had a conversation with the mayor. He did call me about what you posted, and so I told him frankly there was a misunderstanding. He thought it was something that was recent. I said, "What do you think I've been trying to get all these numbers for since you got into office?" I said, "If you remember, Mr. Mayor, I said." The city council questioned Mary Zahadi when she lied about the projected cost of the healthcare increase. She continued to assert that misrepresentation, and then they made a motion to bring the PEC and the Public Employee Committee, which I am a member of, representing all the retirees, to the council to clarify. I said, but we couldn't do it because of COVID. And I said, now since it's budget time, I felt obligated to send these letters to the council to make them aware, as Mr. Mollicone did in his letter, make them aware of all the money that's gone missing, that has been spent without the knowledge of the taxpayer, and I told them to ask questions in my letter. I urge everybody to go to the site and read the letter, look at the exhibits, and especially read the letter that I sent to the transition team. It breaks down 3 areas in fairly good detail. Also exposes the fact that the city was so broke in healthcare, even though they saved $50 million, that we had to give the employees them a $900,000 loan in order to keep the prescription drugs from Canada that saves us literally millions every year. So this is the kind of crap that goes on in the city. Always behind closed doors, nobody asks a question. So I sent that letter in to remove plausible deniability. So I told him here, it's got nothing to do with it. The timing is because the budget's coming. I was going to make this same presentation that I posted, and even in more depth, in front of the city council. So again, Mr. Mollicone's right. And Mr. Mollicone, before I turn this back over to CJ, please reach out to CAG, Citizens Alliance for Accountability in Government. Go to our site. Maybe we can get together, because if we can't get a forensic audit, and I did tell the mayor we need a forensic audit to find out where we are. And please contact us, because we're going to make a concentrated effort not only to fix some of our financial problems, but to get people in office who will make sure that there is full accountability.
Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Sorry for a glitch. I kind of lost the connection. I want to thank you for watching. Stay healthy, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Have a great day.